Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm back. It is October 1st, believe it or not, and it's Thursday. Also, it is 9:51 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's get into the news. All right, but first, let me thank the following donors that donated via coffee. I don't know. I'm having a hard time making my lips work tonight. I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, first day with the new lips, I guess. Heather Piro, Candace, and Driver. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the support very, very much. And let's get into the news. Now, this may be an odd thing to start with, but this I found on somebody's Twitter page, and it's from the 8chan or 8kun now. So let me get into this with you guys first of all. And this says, I worked for the Biden campaign. I worked as a let me make this a little bit bigger. I know you guys with a tiny phone have a hard time. All right. I worked as a low-level staffer for the Biden campaign's headquarters in Philly from July to the end of August. I am more of a Bernie guy, but I thought I should do whatever I could to defeat Trump, so I joined up. Eventually, I became so disgusted with what was going on, I had to leave. Some of this I experienced. The juicer bits are things my now former co-workers told me, so take those bits with a grain of salt. One, the whole campaign is extremely paranoid about leaking or getting hacked. If I were to publish the email chains I got, you'd see about 1,000 messages saying, please see me, or meeting at 10 a.m. No one wants another DNC hack situation, so no one puts any real information in emails or texts. Even with COVID, in-person meetings are the norm. They don't want to do anything on Zoom either in case someone records it. Everyone is suspicious of each other and nobody likes to give specifics on anything. It was frustrating. 2, all of the Bernie bros jokes about being another Seth Rich. With the paranoid atmosphere, some of us would make comments about ending up like Seth. None of us really believe the conspiracy theories except for one weird older guy who was convinced that Malcolm Nance murdered him. His evidence? Nance made some cryptic tweets about punishing the hackers the day before Seth was murdered, and the deed was done less than a mile from the Intelligence Museum in D.C. that Nance owns. I didn't buy it, but I can't say I wasn't intrigued by the coincidence. And going on, 3, there are people whose jobs it is to digitally re-age Biden for political ads. This is very interesting. If you saw a recent speech for Joe and thought he looked like a mummy, then saw snippets of the same speech in an ad, you might have noticed he looked a lot better. That's because they contracted VFX artists from California to de-age him. Normally, I wouldn't begrudge them this, as I'm sure all campaigns try to make their candidate look good, but considering what they're really covering up for, Joe Biden is in the early stages of dementia and is on medication for it. This is the big one and the one I have the least direct experience with, but it's been an open secret for some time. Anyone who has had a relative with Alzheimer's or dementia can tell you there are good days and bad days. On the good days, when Joe is at his most lucid, his campaign manager, Jen, will send him out for photo ops or TV interviews. Make hay while the sun is shining, you know? On the bad days, Jen just tells the press pool, no Joe today, and they're all like, okay, cool. Most of the time, he's just a little foggy and gets really agitated, but one of my coworkers told me back in May there was a day when he thought he was running against Gary Hart in the '84 primary again. Joe went under wraps for several days after that. He's been more lucid recently because his physician, Dr. O'Connor, put him on Namenda. Jen apparently was worried about someone finding it out because she insisted that he prescribe it under a series of phony names and then have the interns pick it up. I bet there are a lot of pharmacists in Philly wondering why there are so many young people on Namenda. Interesting. 5, the dementia medication has had unfortunate side effects. There's no dancing around this. The medication has made Joe incontinent. Though his good days have increased dramatically, he can barely get through a press event without running to the bathroom. That's why he didn't take questions after announcing Harris as his running mate. They weren't afraid of the questions. The press loves him. They were afraid he was going to piss his pants on camera. Lately, Jen's been having closed-door meetings to discuss which brand of incontinence pads would be best to purchase. Seriously, a group of paid staffers sat around and discussed which brands were the least visible, the least likely to leak, and wouldn't audibly crinkle. That's around the time I left the campaign. I can't be a party to this sick game anymore. I never really liked Joe Biden, but he deserves better than to be thrust into the public eye when he should be in memory care. His wife should put a stop to this, but she's way too excited about being First Lady to care about her ailing husband. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. It was on the 8kun, and it was put forth by an anon, so we can take it and just kind of tuck it away in the back of our minds, because we can't conclusively say this is true, but it sure sounds true. And none of that surprises me at all. I think it just confirms what we already know. So anyway, I wanted to bring that to you guys, and I am going to go on with the next item here. And yeah, now, I love me some Dan Bongino, definitely. And he just says this. So let's listen to this. Make it bigger for you tiny phone people, and let's go.
He said sure 3 times. He has done it in the past multiple times. I don't know how many ways you want him to say it and how many times you want him to say it. Do you have any idea, John, what an exalted cyclops of the KKK is? Because Joe Biden sure does. He spoke at a funeral for one and praised him profusely. Any idea who George Wallace is? Joe Biden sure does. Yeah. He thanked the person who gave him the award for George Wallace's name. Any idea what a racial jungle is? It's what Joe Biden doesn't want his kids to grow up in. Joe Biden's record on race is absolutely disgusting. Donald Trump was opening up his properties to African Americans and Jewish people while you were still in local television news, John. You know, one thing, Hogan, this president has a record of respect and understanding these groups like nobody else. I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and let you call the president of the United States a racist when he is the only one. He is the only one. Yes, and I'm here to tell you that record, which CNN refuses to report.
I love that. I love that. I really do. Because, and this is so typical. You know, here's somebody trying to defend Trump, and they just keep interrupting and cutting him off. And he just keeps saying, Hogan, Hogan, Hogan. I mean, he is very annoying. And the interview got away from him, and you could see the worried look on his face. You could see it. And this guy is going gangbusters. And, my gosh, I feel bad for these people that try to stick up for Donald Trump on mainstream media, because this is what they get. They're not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to talk. Only if it's positive about Joe Biden. So anyway, let's go on from there. And this is Hogan Gidley, and he says Joe Biden's record on race is absolutely disgusting. I don't think that any of us would disagree with that. Really don't think so. So let's go on now to the next item. This by Susan St. James. Final C-SPAN poll, Trump won debate 69% to 18%. Wow. Good for C-SPAN. Telling the truth. All right, and let's look at the next. This you're going to find hard to believe. You really are. I mean, I shouldn't even say that, because things are so bizarre. They're so out there. We are living in literally in bizarro world. We wake up and we think, we go to bed at night and we think, well, you know, I can't get any worse. And then we wake up and it just, I don't even recognize the world that I'm living in anymore. I mean, since, well, this year, really, everything has changed so drastically. And I don't know, you wake up every day and you think, well, really, what's going to happen today? And something always does. Well, this is one of those news items. Denial. Governor Cuomo claims coronavirus patients were never sent to nursing homes. Oh, and we believe you, Mr. Cuomo. Yes, we do. You wouldn't lie about a thing like that, would you? Oh my gosh. Fight tech tyranny, join Dan on Parler. Okay, that was Dan Bongino, and he is a good person to follow. Governor Andrew Cuomo's March 25th nursing home scandal has been the main reason why his state has had so much more coronavirus deaths per capita than every other state in the union except for New Jersey, which also adopted a similar policy. If New York were its own country, it would have more coronavirus deaths per capita than any country in the world. Cuomo has previously blamed CDC guidance for the disastrous policy, claiming that all he did was follow their guidance. The CDC's guidance cited two key factors to determine if a patient with coronavirus should be discharged to a nursing home, if the patient is medically ready for the discharge, and if the nursing home can safely care for an infected patient by implementing all recommended protocols to stop spread of the virus. The nursing home order says nothing about making sure a home can care for a patient before making an admissions decision, so this excuse is bunk. Well, any excuse he gives. I mean, that's what he is. He's Mr. Excuse. And now Cuomo appears to be cycling through the stages of grief in reverse, reverting from bargaining to denial. In an interview to the Finger Lakes News Radio, Cuomo argued that the nursing home policy had nothing to do with nursing home deaths. Duh. That's not why they lost loved ones. The premise of your question is just factually wrong, Cuomo said to an inquiring host. People who were lost in nursing homes were lost because that's where the virus preys. Oh my gosh. Honestly, is this man that stupid? Really? Can you actually believe he said that? No, it didn't have anything to do with us putting coronavirus patients in there. It's just like, I don't know, the virus likes hanging out with old people. Can't help that. I didn't do anything wrong. The virus likes old people. It hangs out there. That's where the virus preys. So in Cuomo's world, the coronavirus has a conscience and has chosen nursing homes as their target. Yes, I'm sure the coronavirus is going, where is that nursing home? Now where is it? No, I can't infect these people. I'm looking for a nursing home. Anyway, so in Cuomo's world, the coronavirus has a conscience and has chosen nursing homes as their target, but presumably has sworn off infecting Black Lives Matter protests. I've heard that. I've heard that the coronavirus doesn't like the protests. They're all fine. But if you go to church or you live in a nursing home, it's going to jump right on you. The entire basis for his nursing home order was that space needed to be opened up in hospitals to prevent overcrowding. Cuomo, apparently upping ante on how much BS he can spew, simply denies that ever occurred. And we never needed nursing homes because we always had hospital beds. So it just never happened in New York, where we said to a nursing home, we need you to take this person and they're COVID positive. We had extra beds, he claimed. Then he denied that nursing homes ever took a person who tested possible for coronavirus. These people are despicable. I've never seen. I mean, I think it has taken Trump to come, and be president for 4 years to flush out all this garbage, to flush out just all the scum has risen to the top. Scum that we didn't even know was down there in the swamp. But it's all risen to the top, and we're like, are there any honest people left in the world? I know there are, but you begin to wonder. Anyway, over Over 6,000 people who contracted coronavirus were sent to nursing homes. So, yeah, there's Cuomo saying, well, I never sent anybody to a nursing home. Nursing homes didn't take any coronavirus, positive coronavirus patients. There was 6,000. 6,000. Contradicting Cuomo is the second sentence of the nursing home order, which reads, there is an urgent need to expand hospital capacity in New York State to be able to meet the demand for patients with COVID-19 requiring acute care. The order also said all nursing homes must comply with the expedited receipt of residents returning from hospitals to nursing homes, and New York was the only state that barred testing of patients discharged to them. Roughly 6,600 deaths have been recorded in New York nursing homes, but those statistics don't include those who caught coronavirus in a nursing home, then later died in a hospital. The real number is likely around 11,000. The Republican County executive of Rensselaer County, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, rightly saw Cuomo's order as absurd and defied it. The only nursing home run by the county, Van Rensselaer Manor, saw a total of 0 coronavirus deaths. And the only reason they saw 0 deaths were because they defied Cuomo's order. Cuomo has previously attempted to assure the public that there's no need for an independent inquiry into his nursing home policy. Now he's trying to pretend that there was no nursing home policy at all to inquire about. He's a piece of work. I find this the reason I get so angry is I find it insulting. I find it very insulting that these people think that we are all that stupid. I guess, I don't know what they think. Sometimes people of a low IQ assume other people have about their level of IQ. And honestly, I'm beginning to wonder, because these people did not get put into office because of their brains. You and I both know that. They probably cheated. Anyway, he probably thinks, well, I'm not too smart. They're probably not any smarter than me. Yeah, well, evidently, we are. So there you go. All right, well, let's go on now to this. And I like this. Denounce hate. Kayleigh McEnany slams back. Let's take a look at this.
The right choice to serve on the Supreme Court. And with that, I will take questions.
Now, this is quite long. It's 3 minutes and 50 seconds, but I think it's worth listening to, or I wouldn't bring it up. So let's just have a listen to this.
Kelly, if I could start off, I'd like to ask you for a definitive and declarative statement without ambiguity or deflection. As the person who speaks for the president, does the president denounce white supremacism and groups that espouse it in all their forms?
This has been answered yesterday by the president himself, the day before by the president himself on the debate stage. The president was asked this. He said, sure, 3 times. Yesterday, he was point blank asked, do you denounce white supremacy? And he said, I've always denounced any form of that. I can go back and read for you in August 2019, in one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. In August of 2017, racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups. I have an entire list of these quotes that I can go through with you. He has condemned white supremacy more than any president in modern history.
Just to clear it up this morning, can you, naming it, make a declarative statement that you denounce, that the president denounces it?
I just did. The president has denounced this repeatedly. The president was asked this. You're contriving a storyline and a narrative.
I'm asking you to put
He
this
said,
to rest.
I just did. I read you all of the quotes, and if you need to see them in writing, I will put them in an email. Hold on.
So, Haley, can you right now denounce white supremacy and the group that espouse
The president has
Read a
denounced
bunch of quotes
white
from the past.
supremacy, the KKK, and hate groups in all forms. He signed a resolution to that effect. The president just last week, perhaps you all weren't covering it, but just last week expressed his desire to see the KKK prosecuted as domestic terrorists. This president had advocated for the death penalty for a white supremacist, the first federal execution in 17 years. His record on this is unmistakable, and it's shameful that the media refuses to cover it. Yes.
Thank you. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security say that racially motivated violent extremism is one of the deadliest threats that we face in the U.S. Does this White House agree with that assessment, and what is it doing to combat this threat?
The president has done quite a bit to combat this threat. First of all, last week, he also, in addition to saying he wants to prosecute the KKK as domestic terrorists, he said that lynching should be a national hate crime. Again, I think there's no stronger signal that you can send than advocating for the execution of a white supremacist the first time there's been a federal execution in 17 years. He's been unmistakable.
It's different than actually doing it.
He's continually condemned it, and it is really...
The record on this
It is really-
is mixed. He has condemned
It
it.
is not
He's
mixed in the
equivocated. At
slightest.
times he said he didn't want to acknowledge it or address it. His record is very mixed on this issue.
His record is not mixed in the slightest. And when you go back in history, you can see that
history right here.
when you go back
How
in
is
history,
it
you can see that Jesse Jackson
It's
has
mixed.
praised the president as someone who served underserved communities. This president with Mar-a-Lago, it was the first Palm Beach club open to African Americans and Jews. And in fact,
His record
he
is
was
mixed. He has
he
not
was
been
praised.
consistent on the issue
He
of
has
white
been
supremacy. So I'm
entirely
asking you, what has this White House
inconsistent.
done
And it is quite
to
shameful.
combat
It is
what the
quite
FBI
shameful.
says is
Let
one
me
of the
speak, Paula.
deadliest threats
Paula,
in this country?
We're not having a debate on a cable news
You're
right now. You need to
saying
let
that
me
he
finish.
condemns it. I have his record right here. It's
You need
mixed.
to let me finish.
His record is
It's
mixed.
quite funny that the media goes haywire about interrupting in debates and then chooses to pursue that very same tactic themselves. This is a White House briefing. You ask a question and you give me time to answer. Yes.
Haley, the president said at the debate that Roe versus Wade was not on the ballot and that Judge Amy Coney Barrett's view was not known. She signed.
Yeah, now I find this very frustrating myself because I have heard President Trump with my own ears denounce white supremacists over and over and over again. And if you look through his history, there has been no inconsistency whatsoever. But the press wants to change that narrative. They want to make Trump seem like he's racist, that he's just every kind of ist there is, homophobic, sexist, on and on and on and on. So I find this very frustrating because the way that they ask him, you know, they asked Kayleigh and she answered and she said he denounced it yesterday, he denounced it the day before, he said this, but they don't take that. And then they keep saying, well, you've just given me quotes from the past. So think about that. Think about them using that, because unless you're right in the process of speaking it, it's always going to be in the past. So they can always say that, well, he said that in the past, even though he just said it 10 minutes ago. Well, he said that in the past, but we don't know that he means it. It's absolutely asinine. All right, let's go back now and come down here. This by Greg Price. The media is perfectly reasonable, guys. They aren't satisfied unless Trump denounces white supremacy at least 30 times a day while asking Joe Biden nothing about condemning Antifa or his VP and staff helping bail out rapists and domestic abusers from jail in Minneapolis. Good point. No, excellent point. All right, now let's go on now to the next item and take a look at this. Since Twitter put this URL on the blacklist because it does not fit their narrative, here is an embedded version. Now, listen to Trump yourself and you tell me.
Criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And as I have said many times before, no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws. We all salute the same great flag. And we are all made by the same Almighty God.
Amen.
We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in the eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law.
Amen.
And we are equal under our Constitution. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America.
Yes.
2 days ago, a young American woman, Heather Heyer, was tragically killed. Her death fills us with grief, and we send her family our thoughts, our prayers, and our love. We also mourn the 2 Virginia state troopers who died in service to their community, their commonwealth, and their country. Troopers Jay Cullen and Burt Bates exemplify the very best of America, and our hearts go out to their families, their friends, and every member of American law enforcement.
Now, that is so well spoken, well delivered. I don't know why anyone has a difficult time with this concept. He has said it over and over and over again, very clearly, very plainly, but the press refuses to acknowledge it. So, but I wanted to show to you, and I know that you guys obviously do not think he is a racist, or you wouldn't be voting for him, and you probably wouldn't be listening to this channel. But yeah. Anyway, let's go on now to the next. And Trump exposes debate commission hacks. No calls for mic cuts after Biden heckled, interrupted Ryan 82 times in 2012 debate. So this is from today. It's hot and fresh. The Commission on Presidential Debates issued a statement after Tuesday's debate between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden that said the commission was looking at making adjustments as a result of moderator Chris Wallace losing control of the debate to Trump and Biden, who interrupted and talked over each other and Wallace numerous times. Well, tell me what debate doesn't have the politicians talking over one another. You know, they get impassioned about whatever, and any debate I've ever seen has been like that. But anyway, the Commission on Presidential Debates sponsors televised debates for the benefit of the American electorate. Last night's debate made clear that additional structure should be added to the format of the remaining debates to ensure a more orderly discussion of the issues. The CPD will be carefully considering the changes that it will adopt and will announce those measures shortly. The commission is grateful to Chris Wallace for the professionalism and skill he brought to last night's debate and intends to ensure that additional tools to maintain order are in place for the remaining debates. Anyway. Ew! Oh my gosh, that is the most disgusting thing, how to easily clear earwax. Oh. That takes me back to a time. Now, I know I'm getting way off topic, but I was watching, what is that show where they try to prove stuff? And what they did was they wanted to see if earwax would burn like candle wax. And so they collected all this earwax from people, but honestly, when I was watching them put it together, I was like I couldn't do it. And I know the people that were doing it, the one girl was gagging as well. I think it's disgusting. Anyway, I do think it did burn, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so I guess if you're short up for a candle, you can always use your earwax. Later Wednesday, CBS News' Norm O'Donnell reported the commission is looking at cutting mics. Exclusive at CBS News has learned the Commission on Presidential Debates plans to issue strict new rules in the coming days that include cutting off candidates' microphones if they violate the rules, per an informed source. Well, you know how that will go. They'll cut off Donald Trump's mic, but they won't cut off Biden's mic. They'll never cut off Biden's mic because it was so obvious that he was being favored. It was abundantly obvious. All right. So there you go. That's what they're looking at doing. Former Bush 43 press secretary Ari Fleischer noted that it was Biden who first broke the rules and repeatedly interrupted Trump. I rewatched the start of the debate. The first question went to Trump, who gave an uninterrupted 2-minute response. Then Biden gave an uninterrupted 2-minute response. Then it went back to Trump, whose answer was interrupted 3 times by Biden. If you didn't like it, blame Biden for starting it. Well, absolutely. And flashback to 2012, when then Vice President Biden debated Republican vice presidential nominee, Representative Paul Ryan. A report from the time by ABC's Good Morning America shows Biden heckling and interrupting Ryan over and over again, reportedly about 82 times. The result, a Saturday Night Live skit and no calls to change the rules to cut mics. No, of course not. Of course not. It's all about Trump. They hate Trump with a passion because they know that he is cleaning house. And they know their time is short. In the 2012 VP debate, Biden interrupted Paul Ryan 82 times, made faces the entire time, and dropped a steady stream of insults on Ryan. The media loved it. In 2020, he came out and tried to use the same tactic on Trump. Yes, he did. So, all right. Of course, it was all fun and games when Biden brought us this style of debate in 2012. Here's how Saturday Night Live saw it. Well, why not? Let's look.
For opening statement.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So, and yeah, that's very much like Biden. And he smirked and laughed at Trump the whole time. It's ridiculous. And then instead of showing Trump, they were showing Biden laughing at him. I mean, ridiculous. Anyway, Lloyd Benson was a friend of Joe Biden's, and the vice president made full use of his old Senate colleague's 1988 debate playbook, shaking his head and scoffing pityingly at Representative Paul D. Ryan, trying to paint his opponent as a latter-day Dan Quayle. Mr. Ryan was no Dan Quayle, but he did make the mistake of mentioning John F. Kennedy in an argument over whether tax cuts recharged the economy. Mr. Biden flashed a Cheshire cat grin and said to Ryan, after waiting a beat to let the moment sink in, "So now you're Jack Kennedy?" The vice presidential debate on Tuesday was supposed to be a reboot for the Obama campaign after the president's dismal performance at his debate with the Republican nominee for president, Mitt Romney, last week. Mr. Biden, clearly delighted to come to President Obama's rescue, relished his role, addressing his opponent as "my friend," but dismissing his arguments as malarkey. He laughed at Mr. Ryan's remarks so often and so heartily that at times he seemed like a guest at a comedy club roast, not a vice president debating the fate of the nation with his opponent. Well, I see not much has changed, has it? Not at all. All right. It was a sharp and spirited debate with both candidates delivering some lacerating blows, but Mr. Ryan at times seems disconcerted by the sheer blowhard intensity Mr. Biden brought to the night. Mr. Ryan tried to be respectful, listening to the vice president with a tilted head, choir boy smile, and puppy dog eyes, but he showed his irritation when Mr. Biden kept interrupting to attack his policy on Medicare. "I know you're under duress," he told the vice president, prompting another belly laugh. For Mr. Biden especially, the night was his chance to relieve To relive past debates and unleash his inner barroom brawler, he had to be contained and courteous when he debated Sarah Palin 4 years ago, lest he looked like a bully. This time he let loose, and unlike the courtly Mr. Benson in 1988, Mr. Biden turned his temperature up, singeing the young man across the table with patronizing grins, but mostly withering retorts. His interruptive barrage was as relentless as his silent mugging for the camera. Back then, this behavior by Biden was accepted as normal politics, but let President Trump do it, and the media, allied with the debate commission, call for rules to be changed so Trump can be silenced on the debate stage. Well, we know what you're doing, mainstream media and the election commission. What is a debate commission, rather? Sorry. So we know what they're doing. It's so evident, and it's been evident ever since President took office, and before. It was evident even before. So, yeah. All right. Now, let's go on now, and let's come down here. Now, this is not the Babylon Bee. This is not the Bee. CNN claims Biden never called Trump xenophobic for China travel ban. Here's a tweet for you, CNN, because that's generally how they combat anything that they don't like. They just deny it. No, he never said that. They seem to forget that everything you say and everything's recorded. So, it's no sense lying when the internet keeps a record of everything. These people don't get that, though, because they think you're too stupid to look it up. All right, so CNN claimed Biden never used the word xenophobic in relation to Trump. Well, here we go. Here's a tweet from Joe Biden. Stop the xenophobic fear-mongering. Be honest. Take responsibility. Do your job. So, yeah. And Trump said, I always treated the China virus very seriously and have done a very good job from the beginning, including my very early decision to close the borders from China against the wishes of almost all. Many lives were saved. The fake news, new narrative is disgraceful and false. And Joe Biden responded to that. Stop the xenophobic fear-mongering. Be honest. Take responsibility. Do your job. Yeah, so there, CNN. I guess, your journalists are too busy getting talking points to actually do real journalism. So, yeah, we did that for you. Since your journalists are so incompetent. All right, now let's go to the next. And this, Joe Biden delivered a eulogy for former KKK exalted Cyclops leader Robert Byrd. Biden called the segregationist a mentor, a guide, and a friend. Byrd once recruited and led a KKK chapter with 150 members. Now, this person has responded to that. Deneen Borelli, former Klansman, recruiter, and exalted Cyclops, Senate Majority Leader Robert Byrd filibustered the 1964 Civil Rights Act for over 14 hours. What say you, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? Yes, I'd love to know what you think about that. Not that we'd ever get the truth from either one of you. All right. And here we have this. What do we have here? Is that the next debate moderator chumming it up with Joe Biden? Well, it sure is. Yeah. Well, come to find out that, he worked for Joe Biden. He sure did. And why wouldn't they be good friends? Steve used to intern for Biden. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Yeah, why couldn't they have someone that's like completely unbiased? I don't know who that would be, to tell you the truth, but it would be nice because obviously this person isn't going to give us that either. It's going to be another probably repeat of what happened with Chris Wallace. I don't know that for sure, but I'm betting. Okay, not that I'm a betting person. This is by Rogan O'Handley. So the guy that designates the KKK as a terrorist organization wants to invest $500 billion in black communities, passed prison reform, funds HBCUs, and an HBCU CUs is black colleges and universities. Created the lowest black unemployment ever, is the one they're calling a supporter of white supremacy. LOL. Okay. Yeah, how did they get that, really? I mean, seriously, why, if you were a white supremacist, would you designate the KKK as a terrorist organization? Why, if you were a racist, would you invest $500 billion in black communities and pass prison reform and fund black colleges and universities? Gee, I'm kind of at a loss here. And he also created the lowest black unemployment ever. But yeah, sure, he supports white supremacy. Sure. All right. And looky at this. What do we have here? Looky here. Ukraine releases payment records to Hunter Biden, 46 payments exceeding $3.1 million. And you know, Biden at the debate, he just said, "Oh, that's all been debunked. That's all been looked into." No, such a liar. Anyway, so Ukraine releases payment records to Hunter Biden, 46 payments. Yep. And let's move on. Because we can. I don't know where Xander went, but he was like, he's been so active and had his toys everywhere and just running and running and running. And I think he's just kind of probably passed out somewhere. Anyway. And this just says checkmate. So let's make this bigger first.
They started from the day I won and even before I won.
There we go.
When I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won. From the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady, they were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. We better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition.
So, okay, it's just repeating now. Yeah. I love that. And Joe, that's probably the only time in the debate where Joe actually looked worried to me. And while we're on the topic of the debate, some of you guys brought up to me about the contact lenses. And I did look into that. And I think you're absolutely right. Triple H was one of them, but several others in the comments raised it as well. And so I did go out and look into it, and I think you are absolutely correct. It is a special lens that you can wear that literally it's a computer interface. You can see the words right in front of your eyes, and I think that was how he was getting his answers, and maybe that's why he looked down to be able to see better the words. I'm not sure, but he definitely, his eyes were not his eyes. He definitely had some sort of contact in, because your eyes do not get brown if they are blue, and I should know. I've had many pictures taken because I was studying photography, so we always used to practice on each other for portraits and so forth, and never have I seen my eyes, which are blue-gray, appear brown. Ever. The only time is in a black and white photograph, and they look like they could be brown because it's a black and white photograph. But you know, he's got very light, very blue eyes, slate blue eyes, and you can tell that they look brown. They look brown, and apparently this contact lens does that. Whatever it is, it's like an integration. It's kind of like smart glasses that you can wear, except this is like contacts. And I do believe that. So you guys that commented on that, I think you are absolutely right. So let's move on now, and let's check our time here. Oh, we're doing pretty good. All right. Now this by DD, She says, I'm not surprised by the pictures of Joe wearing a wire. I'm just surprised there was room for that and Chris Wallace in his pocket. Now, I thought that was very, very well spoken. So let me see. And here we are on the next one. Richard N., a French doctor and professor, did post-mortem examinations on 200 corona deaths and found that not one of those deaths was caused by the coronavirus. This is what all of the governments running the corona scam have been doing, wildly exaggerating corona deaths and numbers, and I think we're all aware of that. I'm not saying that nobody's ever died from it. I'm not saying that at all. I know somebody in the military, the medical field, and they have stated to me quite unequivocally that yes, there have been deaths from this, and they have watched people die of this. So there is a virus, but it's not what they're, the amounts of people dying are not what they're telling us. And here's the other thing: in order to be called a pandemic, the death rate has to be at 7%, and we are at less than 1%. So why we are calling this a pandemic is beyond me, but we know it's all political. It's all about bringing in the New World Order. We know that. All right. Now, this is one of the most ridiculous stories. Let's take a look at it. University sets up support spaces for students traumatized by presidential debate. What kind of kids are we raising? Seriously. I mean, I'm telling you, I was never treated like that in school or in university, and certainly was never coddled by my parents. I've broken bones. I've had gashes and slashes everywhere, because when I grew up, we went off in the woods and we played games like Cowboys and Indians, which is, I shouldn't even say that because I know that it's not politically correct, but we do all sorts of things. We'd build tree forts in the trees and the woods, and we'd always be falling and cutting ourselves and whatever, but we weren't coddled. So, but today, I don't know what these people are so soft. Like, everything traumatizes them. Everything. Ohio's Case Western Reserve University, the site of last night's presidential debate, has set up dedicated support spaces for students who have been triggered by the tense exchange. Oh no, they raised their voices. Oh, I need a safe space. I'm a whining, sniveling malcontent. Please take me somewhere safe. They raised their voice. I don't know. I might need counseling now. For any poor snowflake babies who couldn't handle the nasty orange man telling Joe Biden there's nothing smart about you, the university is providing a confidential, safe space where they can talk and cry about it. Yeah, I'm not making this up. It's right here. I'm reading it to you. It's on Zero Hedge. It sounds like I'm making it up. The university says students can discuss the impact of recent national events, including the presidential debate and upcoming election. There are 8 presidential debate support spaces available for students to attend, according to the university, which asks that everyone use respectful dialogue. The spaces will remain active from Monday through to next Friday for virtual counseling sessions. Imagine that you're so traumatized that you have a whole week of these safe spaces for people traumatized by the debate. The university announces, I watched the debate. Most of you watched the debate. Did you need counseling sessions? No. I'm telling you, that's what we're raising. A bunch of whining, sniveling malcontents who are offended at everything and traumatized by everything. What if they had actual problems? Really? How would they cope with that? Not well. Anyway, the spaces will remain active from Monday through next Friday for virtual counseling sessions. The university announced that the support space is not a substitute for psychotherapy. Okay, and does not constitute mental health treatment. The spaces are a throwback to 2016 when education centers offered counseling after Trump won the election. As Campus Reform notes, the University of Massachusetts Boston sponsored a coping and balance workshop in which students were able to interact with Doggo, the therapy dog. Imagine the total meltdown that will occur if Trump wins a second term. I guess they're going to have all sorts of safe spaces set up for people. These people can't cope with life. I don't know how they hold jobs. I don't know how they get dressed and feed themselves. I don't know, really. They're so traumatized by everything. And you can't have a conversation with them. They just scream in your face because they're not able to have a decent conversation with anyone. They're not able to because they'll melt down if you challenge them. They just melt completely down. Unreal. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't read it. And Zero Hedge is pretty good, so I trust what they're saying for the most part. All right, now let's come down here and let's look at this. Oh, yes. Yes. This is a Whopper and not a Burger King Whopper. I would never eat at Burger King. First of all, their food is slop. Second of all, after Ronald McDonald and Burger King kissing, that just did it for me. I would never darken their doorstep. Anyway, Comey's daughter investigated Epstein's suicide. That's right, and we covered that before, actually. And her husband does Ghislaine Maxwell's case. Do you believe in coincidences? No. Well, I do actually, but, Q has repeatedly told us when it comes to this stuff, there are no coincidences. So I will take his word for it. James Comey's daughter inspected missing Epstein suicide footage. Comey's daughter investigated Epstein's suicide, and her husband investigated Ghislaine Maxwell's case. Huh, you don't say. Yeah, actually, we do say. And it says, do you believe in coincidences? Q. So, yeah, Q is bringing this to people's attention, and I'm glad, because this is unbelievable. Come on. Comey's in charge of, his daughter's in charge of Epstein, and the daughter's husband is in charge of Ghislaine Maxwell. Are you kidding me? Nope. Telling you, it gets weirder and weirder and weirder every single day. I'm telling you. All right. Let's look at this. Yes. And, okay, actually, we've already looked at this, so I'm not going to look at this again. This is the, where he's talking about the white supremacists, and she reads a half a dozen quotes from President denouncing white supremacists, and, okay, I can't even talk. I don't know what's wrong with me. So let's move on from there, because we can. And let's look at this. The English 909 just witnessed staff from an independent brewery close to me leave the factory for the last time this evening. The company was established in 1965. Today, 95 staff are now out of work. 7 staff in tears just stood in pouring rain, hugging each other. But hey, keep wearing those masks. Yeah, this is actually very, very sad to me, because this is happening all over the country. There's little tiny businesses. That's not such a tiny business. There's 95 staff. But businesses are going out of business. They cannot operate. And here, I don't get this at all, because the malls close down early now. The stores close down early. Some days of the week, certain stores are closed. Now, How is that helping anything? Like, I don't get it. How does shortening the hours of shopping help the coronavirus? Because basically the same amount of people are going to shop. They're just going to do it in a smaller space of time, which means more crowding and the stores are busier. So I don't get it, but I don't think we're meant to get any of this. I think it's meant to confuse and frustrate us. And control us. Confuse, frustrate, and control us. And let's look at this. Sean Davis, Comey just claimed Trump is a Russian asset because Trump said he didn't trust the very same U.S. intelligence agencies that tried to frame him for treason, fueled by Russian disinformation and funded by Hillary Clinton and the DNC in a coup that was led by Comey himself. So, yeah, I mean, that takes a lot of nerve. So he claims that Trump's a Russian asset because Trump said he didn't trust the very same intelligence agencies that tried to frame him for treason. Yeah, I wouldn't trust them either. All right, now, I think this is very pertinent, very, very poignant. Imagine if 50 million babies were allowed dying wishes. The left is trying to push us and say, that, honor her dying wish. Well, first of all, there's no leeway made for dying wishes in the Constitution. And that's not how it works. Her name's not on that seat. And imagine if all the aborted babies were allowed their dying wishes, which would probably be to live. All right, let's move on now. And let's look at this. Very interesting. U.S. Senate subpoenas heads of Google, Facebook, and Twitter. The U.S. Senate Commerce Committee has voted to subpoena the heads of Google, Facebook, and Twitter. It means that Sundar Pichai, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jack Dorsey face being quizzed by senators about their policies on different types of content. One focus will be the legal protections they enjoy regarding what they leave up and take down on their platforms. They are also likely to be challenged over controversies about privacy and misinformation. Republicans and Democrats on the committee voted unanimously to summon the chief executives. However, each side is likely to have different priorities, with some Republican members speaking about the alleged censorship of conservative views online, while Democrats focus on competition and misinformation. There has never been such an aggression of power in the history of humankind as big tech enjoys today, with money and monopoly, power, and the hubris that comes with the unchecked use of power. Republican Senator Ted Cruz said following the vote. The subpoenas follow an earlier hearing in July when Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google's chiefs testified to a House committee about competition issues and claims of bias. Currently, social media platforms and other websites are protected from prosecution under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. It means, in effect, that the platforms are not liable for what is posted by their users if they take things down once notified, unlike traditional newspaper publishers. But the protection has been thrown back into the spotlight this year after President Trump argued it should no longer apply if the social networks were engaged in an editorial role, which, by the way, they clearly are. Such as when Twitter began adding warnings and labels to some of the president's tweets. A day of reckoning for U.S. tech giants' CEOs. Trump to take big action against social media. Democrats on Commerce Committee had initially objected to the Republican colleagues' use of the subpoena power, but changed their minds for the vote on Thursday after the scope of the discussion was widened. So, that is interesting, and I will report on that when it happens. Okay, let's come down here. I think we are coming to a close here. Now, let's look at this because this is highly intriguing. New photo emerges. This is Chris Wallace, and there he is right there, sitting with Nancy Pelosi and other media personalities right before the State of the Union address. What message were they coordinating? Because you can be sure that they were coordinating a message, not so much a message as a narrative, their own narrative. So I think that's very interesting indeed. Now, all right. Now, this is important, guys, and I've heard this from several sources now, so I do believe it's true. This from Major Patriot. Breaking: military intelligence sources close to the president are warning that fake or doctored imagery and video that may be circulating regarding Jeffrey Epstein's cell cam are explicitly designed to ban or otherwise terminate Twitter users reposting them, and to use discernment. So if you come across this, please do not post it. It is so they can they're saying it's designed to ban or otherwise terminate Twitter users. And here, this is from Q. So Q is saying the exact same thing. He's saying a fake doctored image video dropped here regarding Epstein cell cam explicitly designed to ban, terminate any Twitter user reposting. Do not take the bait. Use discernment. So I wanted to warn you guys, do not repost it if you see it and it's fake doctored. All right. And this again, Major Patriot again, the 3 debate moderators for the 2020 election: Chris Wallace, father was listed on Epstein's logs; Steve Scully, college intern for Joe Biden; and Kristen Welker, leftist who is married to a big pharma executive. Yes, I can see how they really went out of their way to make sure that they chose unbiased moderators. Not. All right, and this is the last item, and I think it is pretty wild. I wouldn't have believed it unless I saw it, and I'm still wondering if it's been photoshopped somehow, but it does not appear to be. But look at this, Pepe. Isn't that wild? And this is by Yig, who says, check it. Now, Yig has had some very, very good threads. So, yeah. Anyway, great person to follow on Twitter. All right. Well, that is it for tonight, but there will be more news, I can assure you. It just never stops these days, and it gets more and more and more ridiculous. So I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like, well, it's entertainment in a sense, but it's not, because it's just so frustrating. I don't even know. It's not news. I don't know, because most of it, unless you're getting it from an alternative news source, most of it is very, very skewed. And there is so much disinformation in it that it makes discerning the truth almost impossible. So anyway, we will continue to cover the news behind the news. And I hope you guys enjoy your evening. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed. And please keep seeking truth. And tell others as well. Red pill the other people around you. Try to, at least. I know it's very difficult, but at least try to. Okay, well, that is it. You guys have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay well. And I will be back tomorrow. Good night, guys.